Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into two totally separate, but I think really fascinating trends that are shaping our digital world. First up, we're going to look at the hype cycle around new tech and a little cognitive bias that kind of fuels it all. And then we'll do a complete 180 and uncover a huge shift in the advertising world that was found in the most unlikely of places. Okay, let's just jump right in with this. We start with a pretty wild quote from Alex Telford, who says he's a non-developer. He's saying he's basically ditching Figma, the huge design tool, because large language models, LLMs, are just that much better for spitballing new ideas. Now, on the surface, that sounds like a massive deal, right? Like this is a sign that AI is about to completely change the software design game. So a quote like that, it just forces you to ask, is the hype actually real? Is Figma in real trouble here? Or maybe, are we just getting so excited about the new shiny thing that we're missing the bigger, more complicated picture? And that question, that's the perfect way to get into the first half of our explainer. So to really get what's going on here, we have to talk about something called novelty bias. We're going to see how this little quirk in our brains plays out in the tech world, especially in how we value these exciting new companies versus the big established players they're supposedly coming for. And this slide, wow, this really tells the story in just 2 bars. You've got Adobe, the old guard, the incumbent, valued at around 6 times its revenue. Then you have Figma, the challenger, valued at a mind-blowing 45 times its revenue. That huge gap, it's not just math, it's a bet. The market is betting big time that Figma is the future, and Adobe, well, that it's the past. But see, this isn't really a numbers game. It's about the stories we tell ourselves. The story for the challenger, it's always so clean and exciting, right? It's all about uncapped upside, and any real risks are kind of fuzzy and hidden from view. But the incumbent, their story feels messy. All their risks, like trying not to sabotage their own products or making a complicated transition, they're right there on the surface for everyone to poke at. And let's be honest, we just prefer that simple, exciting growth story. And that right there brings us to the main idea, novelty bias. It's basically our brain's tendency to get totally hooked by new and exciting stuff. And because of that, we tend to overvalue all that potential and, at the same time, undervalue the strength and resilience of things that are already proven. We see the shiny new thing and just forget to ask tough questions, but we'll nitpick every little flaw in the thing we already know. We've seen this movie before. Just think back to 2022. The big story was that TikTok was this unstoppable juggernaut that was going to disrupt Google search, make Meta totally irrelevant, and even take over music streaming. Now fast forward to today. Of course, TikTok is still absolutely massive, but that whole super app story, the one where it was going to conquer the entire digital world, that's cooled off a lot. But, okay, here's the kicker. If you go back and read the full article that first quote came from, you find out the author's real point was the exact opposite of the hype. Alex Telford wasn't saying AI is replacing everyone. He was actually saying that the idea of LLMs replacing software engineers anytime soon feels, in his words, totally fake. The reality here is just so much more nuanced. Of course, LLMs are amazing accelerators for some tasks, but they really struggle with big, messy existing code bases. And, more importantly, they can't do the higher order stuff that actually defines modern engineering. Talking to customers, making big architectural choices, or even just setting up cloud services. They're an incredibly powerful tool, for sure, but they're not replacing the person who knows how to use it. All right, get ready for a hard pivot. We are leaving the world of developer tools and tech hype cycles completely behind. We're going to jump into our second trend, which is a totally different but just as important shift happening in the digital economy. And the key insight for this next trend comes from, well, a pretty unexpected place: the quarterly earnings call of a global pest control company. Seriously. Just stay with me here. This is cool. What we're talking about is the great ad spend migration. And this is a story about a really fundamental change in how businesses are thinking about advertising. Specifically, it's about the move away from just capturing demand that's already there to actively creating new demand from scratch. And the company at the heart of this is Rent-A-Kill. Now, we're not talking about some small startup here. This is a global giant valued at $18 billion. When a company that big makes a major strategic move, you can bet it's a sign of a much bigger trend happening across the market. So what exactly did they do? Well, Rendacole's leadership basically said, hey, we're way too reliant on paid search ads like Google. That strategy worked, but the cost to get each new customer was high, and it had a ceiling. So they made a very deliberate choice to start moving that ad money over to what they call awareness channels, like Meta and YouTube. And this move really highlights two totally different ways to think about advertising. Paid search is all about harvesting demand. You're targeting someone who already has a problem, somebody who's literally typing termite control now into Google. It works, but you can only get people who already know they need you. Social ads, though, are about sparking demand. You're creating awareness before someone even knows they have a need, using entertainment and discovery to build your brand way at the top of the funnel. So what Rentokil is doing hints at a much bigger story for the entire ad market. The whole advertising pie is getting bigger, sure, but it seems like social and awareness platforms are taking a bigger and bigger slice of every new dollar that gets spent. It's less about stealing money from search and more about where all the future growth is headed. So after jumping between those two very different corners of the digital world, what are the two big ideas you should really take away from all this? Let's break it down. First, remember novelty bias. The next time you hear about some tech that's going to change everything overnight, just be a little skeptical. That story about the new challenger is always exciting, but the actual strength and resilience of the established player, it's almost always undervalued. And second, the ad spend shift. Advertising is changing. Demand isn't just being harvested at the bottom of the funnel anymore. It's being sparked at the top through entertainment and discovery on social. And that leaves us with one final thought for you to take with you. The next time you see a headline about some guaranteed disruption or a huge new trend, just pause for a second and ask yourself, what's the simple, exciting story they're trying to sell me? And maybe more importantly, what's the messy, complicated reality that's probably being ignored? Thanks for tuning in.